Turning now to the Trump administration's first 100 days in office. Tonight, a showdown between President Donald Trump and the federal court over his deportation of hundreds of alleged immigrant gang members. Over the weekend, the Trump administration flew 2 planes carrying immigrants to El Salvador, even as a federal judge issued an order to temporarily bar the deportations. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act from 1798 to deport those immigrants. It is the first time it has been used since World War II. The ACLU is suing the Trump administration over the deportations.
We are not saying at this point that the government defied the court order, but we are saying there are serious reasons to potentially think that they did.
I don't know. You have to speak to the lawyers.
The ACLU says the act is intended to be used against a nation that declared war against the U.S. or has invaded the U.S. The ACLU says that has not happened. The Trump administration says it did not violate the order. And the Department of Homeland Security will begin to enforce a law that requires immigrants to register with the federal government. Failure to register could result in a fine, imprisonment, or both. The announcement has immigration attorneys concerned. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias has the story for us tonight.
To have this kind of self-report requirement, it is a little bit scary, for sure.
Victoria Argumedo, a former immigration judge, is talking about the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's interim final rule going into effect in April. Last month, Secretary Kristi Noem announced DHS will fully enforce the Immigration and Nationality Act. It requires all aliens 14 years of age or older who were not registered and fingerprinted when applying for a U.S. visa and who remain in the United States for 30 days or longer must apply for registration and fingerprinting.
There was no confusion as to what the purpose of this was. It's to have individuals who have no lawful status registered and to make it easier for the Department of Homeland Security to identify and potentially detain and remove those individuals.
Julian Sanchez Mora, also an immigration attorney, says it relates to the Alien Registration Act of 1940, which he says was never really enforced before the current administration. And now the attorneys fear there may be consequences when people register.
There are concerns that it's targeting people that have not ever had any issues with immigration of any kind. So these are people that have never been deported.
Or if you don't register.
If there's willful failure to register, then there are criminal penalties associated with that willful failure to register.
Argumedo calls the registration a scare tactic, and they say people need to look at it on a case-by-case scenario.
We are not advising people to break any laws or anything like that, obviously. But if you have a question as to whether or not you yourself would need to report, definitely is the time to consult with somebody with an immigration attorney.
Roxanne Elias, ABC 10.
And some other information to note, that rule takes effect on April 11th. The attorney says registration is currently online, only offered online, and it can only be done through the account of the registrant.